Welcome to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor. I am talking to you from New York City. This is the 7th day of April, 2020. I would like to remind you that I am the author of a newsletter called Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks, and you can sign up for that newsletter by going to miningstocks.com. You can also sign up to be put on our mailing list by going there as well, and you will be informed of upcoming shows and as well as other things that your host is involved in. Some of the investment ideas that I have, I share with people on this list as well from time to time. In my newsletter, which goes out every weekend, I cover approximately 60 companies, most of them being exploration companies, because it is successful exploration that those companies that enjoy the greatest upside gains during a gold bull market. Those are the companies that discover what is literally the best money God created, gold. And in a gold bull market, the profits gained from these penny stock companies can be enormous. That said, it is also true that the risks inherent in these small cap companies are also greater. You simply can't reap huge gains without taking greater levels of risk. It's just a reality of life. That fact has recently, I think, been highlighted with the market meltdown related to the enormous economic devastation caused by the coronavirus. When the massive amount of money being pumped into the economy by the Fed and other central bankers of the world is creating a perfect storm for a gold bull market, even the shares of gold producers were taken down hard during this, along with the Dow and the S&P. I fully expect gold shares will outperform most other sectors in the months ahead. True to form, however, we are seeing the gold producers certainly bounce off the bottom first. And so one strategy that I've been suggesting to my readers is to allocate a certain amount of their resources to GDX, that is the ETF that holds the major gold producers. I believe it won't be long, however, before gold reaches new highs, and at that time, or before even, we'll start to see a resurgence of the junior gold companies. But at least in the early stages of a recovery, it's usually the major gold mining companies that those shares rise first. I think we are already starting to see some of the juniors start their next ascent into higher levels. I will, of course, be updating my subscribers each weekend with my thoughts about those and many other related topics, and including individual opinions about the companies that I follow on a regular basis. Right now, what I'm doing is updating each of the companies on my list with respect to COVID-19, the policies that the management teams are engaged in to try to protect themselves and their clients, as well as their workers from COVID-19, and how that's impacting their business models as well. I do want to thank each of you for listening to this show, making it one of the more popular shows in the Voice America Business Channel, and I want to invite each of you to keep your questions and comments, whatever you have to say about this show, send them along to questionsfortaylor@gmail.com. And, of course, we do want to thank our sponsors for making this show economically viable. Our sponsors for today's show are RN Resources, Ely Gold Royalties, Great Bear Resources, Hannon Metals, Irving Resources, Novo Resources, and Sitka Gold Corp. Before I get to the title of today's show, let me say that I am hugely optimistic regarding all of these sponsors, as well as another sponsor that just dropped off of our list sponsorship this week, and that is Lion One Metals. I truly believe that company's alkaline gold project has the very real potential to host a multi-million-ounce gold deposit, and that its current price of around 94 cents in U.S. money will look hugely attractive, will look like a tremendous bargain in the not-too-distant future. Of course, remaining optimistic about this company's enormous upside potential, I am continuing to pay close attention to the drill results, which are ongoing as that company continues to operate and drill on its Fiji Island project. You heard from Chris Taylor last week regarding Great Bear Resources. That company's prospects remain as great as ever. It is an amazing discovery that I think will prove to be one of the most significant new gold discoveries in recent years. So that is another story that I'm extremely excited about and report on almost weekly in my newsletter. Irving Resources is yet another story that deserves huge attention for reasons outlined in my letter and also by Quinton Henning in a recent interview that he did on this show. Quinton is very much involved in the geological and the exploration programs engaged in that intriguing and very promising story in Japan. And speaking of Quinton Henning, I think it is hugely important that you not forget Novel Resources, which remains one of my true favorites. And I think now may be a very good time to buy, in part because there is a lot of uninformed talk about Eric Sprott selling shares from his charity account, as if Eric Sprott has lost faith in Novel Resources. Well, I certainly can't get inside Eric Sprott's head, wouldn't pretend to do so, to know for sure what he's thinking about Novel. Those who follow Novel closely will realize that Eric continues to work side by side with Quinton Henning and Novel Resources. Recently, there have been two spectacular new gold discoveries, which both Sprott and Novel together have purchased shares in. And I know for a fact that Eric and Quinton work together on many projects, including some of those related to sponsors in this show. I would strongly suggest that there are huge numbers of reasons why a very wealthy man like Eric Sprott might sell some shares of Novel as a gift to some charity other than the fact that he has lost confidence in Novel. I just, again, can't get inside Eric Sprott's head, but I would just suggest that I think to assume that because he sold some shares, that means he no longer has confidence in Novel, would be a huge mistake. For my part, I keep in close contact with Quinton Henning to keep focused on the fundamentals of Novel's projects in Western Australia. And what I can tell you is that there are some very exciting things taking place that I suspect may cause the market to start to forget stories of Eric Sprott's sales very soon. Suffice it to say that I am very excited about recent reports of success in mechanical sorting, combined with prospects of at least the potential, as I understand it, of gaining a mill through which concentrates from all around Australia, the company's projects, Novel's projects, might be processed. The excitement of Novel has certainly worn off in recent months, certainly from 2017 when the big discoveries were being made. But I believe this story, in the prospects and the upside of this story as much as I ever have. Now, of course, while the monetary impact of the coronavirus is having a huge positive impact on the outlook for gold longer term, it is also true that the virus is leading to a decline in many exploration projects and in the reduction of some gold producers, gold production from the gold producers, I should say. And so I must mention Quinton Henning, once again, who has responsibility as CEO for Novel Resources, as well as sharing responsibility for several other companies, including some of our sponsors. Quinton has been analyzing the COVID-19 statistics to give a sense of how much progress is being made in reducing this horrible disease in different locations, not only in America, but in those other places where he has companies where he's involved with that have responsibilities, such as Irving Resources in Japan, Lion One in the Fiji Islands, and of course in Western Australia, Novel Resources. Irving's projects are in the north of Japan, and drilling by Canadian drillers is ongoing in that location, as I understand it. And we can look forward to more drill results coming from Irving in the not-too-distant future. Regarding Australia, Quinton stated the following, and I quote, "Australia has gone to broad-scale lockdown, and their numbers are diminishing fast, so all is good on that front," end of quote. So I do expect that we will start hearing some good news from Novel Resources very soon. Before I get to today's show, let me pass along some more good news from Quinton Henning regarding the COVID-19 disease in the U.S. Quinton has been tracking on a daily basis the percentage change in new deaths in America from day to day, applying a 5-day moving average. He sends me a chart, and it is really quite impressive what's taking place. Well, Dr. Henning has been one of the earliest people that I know of in the mining sector to really get worried about COVID-19. He, in fact, skipped the PDAC events as well as the Metals Investor Forum that I was hoping that he would go to, but he was one of the first people to say, hey, this is really serious. Let's take this seriously and let's really be careful. So he has been tracking this very, very carefully, and there are some very encouraging data that he has provided, mostly having to do with the decrease. It's day by day, almost every day, declining decrease in the percentage of increases in deaths. So as of yesterday, the current daily increase is a mere 12%. And I say mere because all deaths are tragic, of course, but I say mere because this is a steady decline from 40% daily increase 11 days ago. 40% daily increase 11 days ago. It's now down to 12%. In addition, the number of people being hospitalized in and around New York City has dropped very, very dramatically. And that is an area of the country where hydroxychloroquine has been applied in a great amount, probably the greatest amount of anywhere. So a lot of patients have been receiving that drug, used very effectively by many physicians in the New York City area, is seemingly being automatically dismissed simply because people dislike Donald Trump or because there is big money perhaps to be made with other remedies. I'm not saying hydroxychloroquine is the answer, only that there appears to be such non-objective response by people who are supposed to be open-minded, truth-seeking bioscientists. At least that's my opinion. I'm sure many of you might have a different viewpoint. Anyway, one more news item from Dr. Henning that his people in Australia made him aware of, and that is that there are reports in the Australian press that a Chinese government-sponsored company systematically bought up all the protective products they could get their hands on in Australian stores in early February before the COVID-19 virus hit Australia. And then they shipped 275 containers full of this material back to China. There are reports of the same thing happening in Turkey and Canada. Well, you can read those accounts from the Australian press by clicking on links at miningstocks.com, or you can, by the way, also subscribe to my newsletter, Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. Well, let me now get to today's show. Turning Hard Times into Good Times is the name of the show. It's also the name of this episode, Turning Hard Times into Good Times with Rick Rule and John Rubino. Rick Rule and John Rubino, two people that I've known for quite a while. There have been astounding negative economic numbers that are pointing to a greater depression. Initial jobless claims of over 3 million last week were totally eclipsed by a sickening 6.7 million this past week. And if that's not gloomy enough, Goldman Sachs predicts a negative GDP of 9% for Q1 and 34% for Q2. For really successful investors, however, times like these are seen as times of opportunities. When blood is running in the streets, common traits among those who turn hard times into good times are a reality-based optimism that times will eventually get better as all those around them are giving up and in despair. So I can think of few guests that can come onto this show better able to provide some rays of sunlight in a very dark situation than Rick Rule and John Rubino.